Hello everyone and welcome to the next episode of Outside of Life, where it's all about how you can turn your creative passion into a profession. My name is Eva and my guest today is an amazing oil artist, concept artist and character designer living in Florida, United States. He enjoyed painting and drawing as a hobby while never exploring the possibility of a career in art. That's why he earned a degree in criminal justice and set his heart on a career in federal law enforcement. Serendipity had it, and while his family was selling their home, he was hired on a spot by a small animation gallery as a color key artist. He then worked for several years in a small animation studios alongside many talented artists from Disney, before he decided to go on the self-employment journey. He wants people to be happy when they look at his artwork, so he creates stories that personally make him smile or laugh. I especially love his character Bo, the frog. He is fortunate to have been granted a license to paint some of his favorite films from Disney, Pixar, Lucasfilms, and Warner Bros. In his own style. With the help of Kickstarter funding, he has just released his first art book, so go check it out. And please welcome Rob Kaz, and let's go to the interview. So welcome everyone to the next episode of Outside of Life, and I'm super happy to have my guest here, Rob Kaz. Hi!
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining. I'm super happy that you took time from your busy schedule and creation.
Well, we had a hurricane and that created a lot of time.
So you had the time to think and reflect.
Yes, lots of time.
Or you had time to work on your book, right? That's what I
Yes.
saw.
Yeah. We have been working on a book and it's going very well. We kickstarted it and we met our goals and we're looking forward to getting in people's hands.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm really big fan of your work because it's everything so positive and colorful. It's really nice.
Thank you.
And let's start with your background and how did you go to art, or maybe what was your first creative outlet as a child?
Well, they say truth is stranger than fiction in my life. My career is no different. I accidentally became an animator, and not many people say that.
Accidentally.
But yeah, I mean, basically, when I got out of college, I was a criminal justice major in the United States, and I wanted to go in federal law enforcement. And through the way of the world, my life kind of changed, and all of a sudden I was offered a job as a color key on an animated film. And it was just really random. Some guy came look at a house that my art was on the walls, and he was like, "Who's this?" And I just happened to be unemployed, so I'm like, okay. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I love art, and it's always been a hobby. And I think the only scary point was making that hobby into a career. Would it change it for me? Would that fulfillment end? But luckily it didn't. It actually really caught hold, and I love it. So working on that film, I was hired as a contractor for Color Keys, and I did about 3 months. And at that point, my contract ends, and anyone who's in film, it means bye-bye. Yeah, where do I go now? So I went home and kind of did some soul searching. And the long and the short of it is that I said, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I absolutely love it. And you have the parental advice of do what you love, and I'm just, it's ringing in my ear. And so I just said, you know what, I'm going to do it. Because what do I have to lose? I mean, I don't have another job that's waiting on me or anything. So I ended up learning how to do 3D animation with Maya, and a little bit of Photoshop and that kind of thing. And when they asked me if I knew how to do that, I was like, yeah, I didn't know how to do that. But I knew enough that when I got there, I could be productive. And so they stuck me texturing models and doing a little bit of scene setups and things like that. So I learned along the way. And this studio was special because I was one of the only non-Disney people in it, because they had laid off everyone in Orlando. So when I didn't know how to do something, I had someone who worked on feature film at the highest level to tell me what the best way was. So I learned from these guys, and they were amazing artists and really good people. And through that studio, I think I really fell in love with both filmmaking, story, visuals, and of course, just the process of creation of art. And well, that studio kind of ran through some troubles, but like all small studios, You make a project and then you have to get funded for the next one, and the funding wasn't there. So I ended up moving on to another studio, similar idea, a lot of the refugees from the first one. And I became an art director, which was kind of cool, being in charge of the creation and the direction of the projects. And to me, that's so fulfilling, is to have your vision be disseminated amongst a bunch of people who are so talented and then making it better. Yeah. And from there, I want to say around 2008. Yeah, right when the big recession hit, the idea was to go somewhere more stable. I didn't really I live in Orlando, and I didn't necessarily want to uproot and move overseas or to California or just somewhere farther away. So I ended up going to work at Electronic Arts, doing the American football games, like Madden and the NCAA, and maybe a little Tiger Woods, golf, and that kind of thing. And it was eye-opening for what the big studio experience was. And in my head, I'm thinking it's like Google or Pixar, where they have all these different things that you can do, and arcades, and and EA does have that. But if you used it, it was almost like, why aren't you working? Yeah. I was like, come on, time is money, let's go. But I loved the job, so I was the first one in every day, and longer than a lot of people did. I ended up sticking around for about 3 years, and there were a lot of layoffs there, and at that time, and I really thought it would be a good thing not to have to go through another round of layoffs. I mean, I survived them all, but when they said, "Hey, Rob, what do you think about doing this project?" and I said, I think I'm just going to go, and they're like, "You're an idiot. Why would you do that?" Yeah, like you're at the top of the game. Why would you go anywhere? And in my head, I wanted to make it fun and personal again. So that's when fine art kind of came into my life. And I would draw little sketches and do all these things, and people were like, "Oh, they're amazing." And yet at the same time, to leave a really good job as a character modeler and then move into something that I absolutely have no experience in was a big, big, big risk. And just to sum it up, that was one of the best decisions of my life in retrospect, but it could have easily been the worst decision. In all things, it's perseverance.
Yeah, definitely. So, and just going back maybe to the first encounter with art, when you were deciding, when you said like this guy came to look at the house. So how did that work? Did you have some portfolio already, or So how did that happen?
No. Like I said, it was a hobby, so I was doing it for fun. And the house was actually my father's house. He was selling it because we were all moving out. I'm going off to work for whoever, and my older brother was already moving out. And next thing you know, he's like, "Well, I got a 4-bedroom house, and I only need one." And so he put it up for sale, and I had given him some things just for fun. You when you give art to your family, like, "Look what I did," and they put it on the refrigerator and the magnet and all that. But the gentleman saw the art laying on the table and on the walls, the paintings and the drawings, and I had started to get into Photoshop a little bit, so I was doing T-shirt ideas and skateboard ideas, and some of them came to fruition, but many of them were just for fun. Yeah. And spending a lot of money on glossy paper and ink for those printers, and just having fun,
And so all of this was digital, or also like pencil sketches, so not oils yet?
Not that he saw. I was painting in oils. That started in high school. I was only doing pencil, the Prismacolor, all those things. But my art teacher, because I was only doing that, he wanted me to branch out. And this was the only art teacher really that had any influence over me in my entire life. But he said, basically, paint in oils or you'll fail. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll love to, yeah. And yeah, okay. So that being said, I absolutely loved it. And for me, I'm a person who likes to go at my own pace. And oil paints absolutely made me feel like I could do it at a pace that was comfortable and either slow or fast, depending on what I wanted to do. And I think that's why I fell in love with it. And a lot of people don't like it because it goes so slow. They want, acrylics or gouache or whatever that's very, very quick, and you can do it in front of people really fast, and or whatever the needs are. Faster is better. And I'll admit that nowadays the pressure is to go fast, but because of my experience with oils going back almost 2 decades, I can be that fast with oil paint.
Yeah. Because so how long does it usually take you to create these giant pieces of artworks now?
Yeah. It depends on the subject. So I had done a mural of on canvas actually, but of let's say a Disney piece that I was commissioned to do of the pirate ship in Peter Pan, and it was like that, super huge. I think it was 8 foot long, and it took about a week because it was mostly sky, mostly water, and then the ship. So I could go through very quickly. But then something that might be this big, because there's so much detail, it could take me 2 weeks, depending on what needs to be done. So I mean, it all depends, but usually with oils, it's the kind of paints you're using, the maybe a flow medium that's added in. And with acrylic paint, you can add in a number of things to slow it down or speed it up. So I was using a lot of that. Yeah. It's a chemistry set.
Yeah, because I'm not really experienced with traditional tools as much. So I'm just like experimenting with watercolors. But so do you have a favorite brand for acrylics and like oils as well, maybe?
I do. I've used a lot over the years, and I've come to understand that the more professional grade stuff, even though it's smaller and more expensive, it actually lasts longer. So I started off with Old Holland with that in mind, but now I've moved to Williamsburg because they are somewhat local to my country, and the quality is there, but the price is much less. So they're owned by Golden, and if you're an acrylic painter, they're one of the biggest manufacturers of acrylic paint. So it makes it easy to source it out.
Yeah, oh, really cool. And so how do you choose your color palettes? Do you look at the colors you already have, and then like, how can I mix it up? And do you do like a small sketch with a tryout of color mixture and how it will blend?
In the beginning, yes. Yeah, not anymore. I think I've refined the process enough now where if I can see it in my head, I can just go. And there might be some movement of lines here and there, like an animator will rough out a character, and then a cleanup artist will do that. There's that process in oil painting where you rough it out, and then you define the lines after the fact. And sometimes it works, and many times it doesn't. But in the end, I like the flexibility of getting my hands on a piece of canvas and then just kind of moving things around with the paint and doing it very quickly. And I think that's the biggest lessons. And I know that, a lot of people ask me, what's the biggest thing you've learned in art? And I think it's the ability to get to the best idea quickest. So, you start off maybe in my early years, it might have taken me a half a dozen tries to get a character looking just the way I want. But towards the end, I could do it in 1 try or 2 tries. So it just the becoming more familiar with how I work and what the project needs, I can get to that nugget faster.
And do you work also the same way as you work with traditional media when you go to digital, like the same process?
Well, really, there are 2 different products. So I think the pipelines or the workflows are going to be absolutely different. But yeah, definitely it would be completely different. The only comparison I could make is when I'm doing licensed work like Star Wars or Disney, and even now Peanuts and Warner Brothers. But basically, when you set the scene up, you want to in your head think about relationships and composition and things like that. When I worked as an art director and a scene director, when I worked with the layout artists, we would try to come up with those same kind of hero shots or milestone shots for like storyboarding and pitch boards and all that kind of stuff. Though that process is similar in the idea creation, but not necessarily, pencil on paper or paint on canvas. It would be completely different in technique.
Yeah. And when you mentioned working with a team, how do you choose people to work with, and what are maybe the qualities you look for, or what
Uh,
would kind of interest you when you see a portfolio like, oh, this is the cool person to work for or with, I mean.
Yeah, I think speed was always the number one thing for me because we had projects and deadlines. So if someone could work fast and effective and put out a quality product, I think that was probably the most important. But I think there was just this innate, like if I was hiring an animator, I would look for emotion or not a lot of jarring movements unless there was kind of called for, but smoothness,
Yeah.
but keeping it simple, not over complicated. Keep it simple, stupid, as they say. And for me, when I use the word perfection, obviously there's nothing that's perfect, but making something as simple as possible, knowing what to take away rather than what to add, is really where I thought real talent lies.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. And what about your inspiration when you create your own artworks and the stories? What do you have? Do you have something strange which inspires you as well, or
Uh,
yeah, how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, really, just getting out there and looking at life is what really inspires you. And just random situations. You could be in a coffee shop and just see an interaction, or you could be at like I live right near Disney, so the theme parks are really people watch, and you could see people being at their best, doing very interesting things. But having two dogs and seeing how they interact with the world is always fun because they're intelligent, but at the same time they're innocent. So you can see interactions without the survival of the fittest or any of the real human issues of romantic relationships or stresses about money or things like that. You just pull all those out, a little Bambi-esque. Uh,
And
so for me, that's what inspires me. But weird things that inspire me, I don't know. When I worked at EA, I did listen to music, but when I couldn't think of what to do, I would turn on thunderstorms because it's very dark in a studio. They always turn out the lights. You would know when no one's there because all the lights would be on.
motion sensors, or then it's just
Yeah. Well, yeah, the cleaning crews would have to come in, and because we turned all the lights off to see the monitors when they came on, you knew they were cleaning. But because it was dark, you could almost imagine there being like a thunderstorm coming in or something like that. It would kind of get you into that mood of like you're in Blade Runner and you're looking at a photo or something like that. It just gets you in that mindset of I'm doing this right now.
And do you do like different music for like when you want to draw like a dark scene, and when it's like a
Yeah,
happy scene that is like happy
yeah,
music?
absolutely. Yeah, I'll if you I don't know if you can see behind me, but I have an iPad. Oh no, it's gone. Sorry, but usually there's yeah, hurricane fun again. We put it all away. But basically, when I'm working, I'll have like an iPad on the side where I'm playing a movie or music, or if I'm doing Star Wars, I'll have a selection of Star Wars music that goes along with the scenes, and it even helps to know the exact scene I'm doing. But that's something I've done for a very long time, is putting on like mood music
Oh, nice.
uh, things.
And so, did you have also some kind of a mentor, like a one mentor, which kind of helped you the most, or one person inspired you the most along the
Yeah,
way?
definitely, definitely. Basically, when I got into fine art, or when I was looking at fine art, there was a guy who he's an international artist named James Coleman, and he worked for Disney for like 25 years as the lead background artist on a number of films everybody's seen. And I would go watch him paint, but I didn't know he worked at Disney, and I didn't know he had animated background or anything. And at the time, I was working in animation, so I was really loving his work. I'm like, my God, how come I've never seen this before? And he was a very, very warm person, nice, kind, forthcoming. Told me answered every question with complete sincerity. And many, many years later, when I got into fine art, I reconnected with him, and now he has a publishing company, and he's my publisher. So that to me is like perfect,
Oh, that's
the
really
way it
nice.
all happened. Yeah.
And what was the best lesson he taught you?
Uh, there so many. Um, Basically, just how to, just paint, just enjoy what you do, and the best things will come from that. The minute you get caught up in the stresses of life, I think that shows in the work. And sometimes people want that in their paintings. But for me, if you've seen my work, with the exception of some of the Star Wars stuff, I want you to smile and not feel like you're burdened by all those things in life.
And have you ever received like a worse advice? Something you remember?
A lot of it, yeah. Much of the advice that I would consider bad was not that it was bad for them. It was just that it didn't apply to me. Mm-hmm. So to be non-specific, someone would say, you should paint lighthouses. I make a lot of money painting lighthouses. And then if I did it, they wouldn't sell, because in their mind, it's great advice, but to me, it means nothing. But I think the worst advice I got was from someone I worked with in fine art. Basically, they told me, when I said I was unhappy, they said, stick through it, just push through. And to me, that's bad advice, because being happy is more than the job. It's your life, and you should enjoy life. So, putting career and everything aside, don't be unhappy. If you're unhappy, make a change.
Yeah. And did you also had something like a most difficult period of your art career, or like this like bad moment, and maybe what you learned from it?
Well, yeah, we touched on this earlier, but basically I went through 2 animation studios and a video game studio. Really after the second animated film I worked on, or the animated studio, when the money dried up, that was a really bad moment for me, because they basically said, we can't pay you anymore. Mm-hmm. And I felt my world had ended. Like, I was crying and everything was bad, and I didn't know where I was going to go. And I started to make phone calls with people I had worked with in the past, and they were like, sorry, buddy, no openings, Mm-hmm. And that was probably the lowest point in my art career as it gets. But in retrospect, and this is maybe the point of positivity, is that was the turning point when my art career really took off. Mm-hmm. Because it forced me to look at my career and decide where I wanted to go, and make a good decision on a direction, and find myself again. So I ended up moving to video games at that point, applying to electronic arts, and from there it really was an upward trajectory. Everything got better from there, and doors opened and things got wider, and I started to realize who I was, mm-hmm. and where I wanted to go.
And how was the transition when you started to paint more for yourself? Did you draw like your ideas first? And how was it when you started to work for like Disney license products? Right. So
in the beginning, I was painting serious stuff, things that I thought people would want, like lighthouses and things like that. And they weren't going anywhere. I mean, it was like a background piece of art, but no characters, no nothing. And I was doing, I'll say, okay. You know, as a person who sells out of a tent, I was doing okay. But when I started, I remember specifically one art festival, to get ready for it, I just like, screw it. And I'm going to paint one of the little sketches I had done, you know, in my off time. And just for me, a character artist, you know, making a story out of a painting. And I made the frog. And that painting, and then another one I had done, both the same size, I put them up and people were fighting over them. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wait a minute, I thought these weren't even going to sell. Yeah. And here people are fighting over them. So that to me was something that's why I have a firm belief that if you have a passion for something, it shows in your art, because you know, you really put everything into it, as opposed to painting for a set dollar amount. You might not put everything you have into it. Professionals can do that, but and I was not a professional fine artist at the time, but I definitely put everything I had into creating a story, and that really took that off. But when licensing started to happen, when Disney approached me, and then Star Wars a few years after that, you know, it just, there's a learning process, and you paint a few and you realize what works and what doesn't. But in the end, again, if you love the product, you're the fan. You're painting for yourself, what you want to see, and I think that's helped me intensely. Is knowing that if I love the Paperman short and I paint it, even though the people involved with the publishing of Disney Fine Art say, no, 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 Paperman, no, 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 no. I'm just like, but I want to see become a really good seller for me because I know there's a lot of other Paperman fans out there, or Up fans, or what have you. So again, if you put passion into it, I think it rewards what you do.
Yeah, I totally agree, because then you just give everything what you have.
Yeah.
And and how do you do your networking? As you said, you go for conventions, and also when you said like Disney or Star Wars approached you, did they find you online or was it through convention?
Right. At that point, I had a publisher who had put my work on cruise ships and in some galleries, but mostly cruise ships like Royal Caribbean, Princess, some others, smaller brands. But basically, the art community is rather small when you get to that level. So their publishers talk to my publishers, and they're like, well, have them do some demo pieces. And by like the third one, they're like, just keep going, you know, and from there it really took off. But you know, it's when someone asks me how to become a Disney artist, I never know what to say because it's a process. It's like, well, you get lucky and get a publisher and you get on a cruise ship and then you find an invitation. No, you can't say that because it doesn't apply to everyone.
Yeah, but yeah, if you set the goal, right? Did you set a goal like you want to create this kind of artworks, and then you know when there is an opportunity that you can take it, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I believe that if you're good enough, people will find you.
Yeah.
You just put yourself on. Like when I started doing fine art, Instagram didn't exist. So you know, or Facebook was just starting. It was still MySpace. You know, so. Getting out there was a little more difficult than it is now, where, you know, like I might have 3,000 followers, but then I look at someone who's doing Disney sketches and they have 200,000 followers. I'm like, how does that happen? But, you know, you got to put in your time, you know? So same thing with social media, is you just have to keep grinding.
Definitely. And so with, is there something you wish you knew before you started the whole art career?
Basically, there's you know, there's patience. There's knowing that at least in fine art, everything takes time. I use the joke that it's 3 to 4 months when a decision is made to when something actually happens. But there's a few big lessons that when a company stops paying you, just walk out the door. Don't stick around, because essentially it'll just keep happening and they'll owe you thousands. But these are stupid things.
Well,
but,
I mean, you still have to live from something, right?
I know, right? But basically, when it comes to lessons learned, it's, you know, doing what you love, and you'll never regret it. That's the biggest lesson. You know.
Yeah, I love that. And so when you mentioned as well, like the payments and stuff, so how do you combine your income streams? Do you have one income from just selling paintings or from commissions, or how do you separate stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could call them accounts, where when you get into the finance of being self-employed and an artist, you have a lot of income streams, and having a publisher has really helped me with that. They double as managers. If you get the right one. But, you know, we have an arrangement where I've set it up so all I have to do is paint. I mean, there's some other things, you know, doing interviews and going out on shows to galleries and whatnot. But these are fun things for me, where dealing with people who aren't paying, or trying to find new revenue streams. These are business things that can distract an artist and pull them away from being productive and ultimately creating their livelihood. So for me, having someone do that for me has been really helpful.
Yeah. But how did you find your publisher that you are happy with? That's also a hard question. Lucky,
I guess. You know, my publisher is James Coleman Studios for my personal fine art, and they work as a conduit for Disney and Star Wars for me and a bunch of other products. That was luck. And I'm really, really blessed that I'm working with them, because there was other people involved before that and things that I wasn't happy with. And I would just say that having good communication and getting to know your publisher before you sign is always a good thing. And so definitely don't rush into anything. And again, if you're that good, they won't walk away. So for me, I would definitely say, be patient.
Good. And how do you design your day, or how many hours a day do you spend painting, or do you have something daily, which is like special routine?
Yeah, like again, I'm self-employed, so when the sun comes up, I'm painting, and when it goes down, I'm still painting. But I enjoy it. I really do. When I worked in studios, I would always try to come in early because meetings at these big studios usually start at like 10 o'clock when most people have just now stumbled in the door. So you could get, if you come in at 7 a.m., you can get 3 hours of solid work in before the managers roll in and say, come on, we got to have an all hands meeting. And I remember at EA, we had a meeting, an all hands meeting. Everyone in the studio came down to the auditorium to have a meeting about having too many meetings. It just was like, what?
Yeah, I remember that as well. We used to have those too.
It's like better use of time. I'm like, okay, thanks for the point. This could have been done in an email. But so little things like that.
Definitely. So like walking a dog, that's still kind of like a, side thing for you. So you don't schedule it so much.
But it's a good thing, because whether you're an artist who works at a computer or at an easel or whatever your medium, walking away every hour or two, something like that, just let your eyes rest, because that's always good for your health. If you sit at a computer all day, you're going to have eye trouble. And I always pick the window seats if I could at the studios, even though most guys didn't want them because the light would come in. I learned, and that's where the hat comes in, is I always like sitting near the window, and I could just do that when I needed to. But for me, I could just look out the window, and I would, that's where the frog happened. I could see him sticking on my window, and you could see the rain or the trees, and it really helps take a break, both mentally and physically, from what you're doing. Yeah. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, and but when you mentioned also your dogs, do you translate their personalities into the other animals you draw?
Yes, absolutely. And many people often say your own personalities into these animals, but they are very, they're innocent, but at the same time they have distinct personalities, and you can put them in, whether it's a mischievous animal or just clumsy, or like watch any animated film where they take a creature and give it a personality. It sort of fits the outward appearance. So, which is also a lesson I learned from some of the Disney guys, is make the outward appearance of a character reflect his inward personality. I can hear it in my head. If he's evil, sharp teeth. Things like that.
Yeah. So like sharp objects, that's bad. Like round objects, good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
it's
perfect.
Like when they teach you when you're a little kid, fire bad.
Fire bad. And what about the frog? Where did it come from?
Yeah, well, like I said, he was just sitting on my window one day, and
so it
the
was
power
like
went.
Actual frog.
An actual in Florida, we have tree frogs, and they're little green, cute things, and they have big eyes, and they're like, oh, you just want to, Whenever it rained, I could see him sitting there on the windowsill, and I know what he was doing. He was hunting, but basically, he was so cute that I just started to draw him, like lunch breaks, or if my computer was rendering or something, I would just, have fun with that. And that later became what I enjoyed in fine art, was just making a character, creating a story behind it, even if it's just a subtle story, like, he's lonely, or maybe he needs friends, things of that nature.
Oh, so or the frog was visiting more times, so it wasn't only once.
No, it was many, many, many times.
Really? Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I want to have an office with a frog. That sounds like fun. But yeah, sorry. And do you also have like a favorite quote, maybe, or something over the years? Also, either Disney Studios or something you read somewhere.
Yeah, there's lots of quotes that apply at different times, but the one that keeps coming back is one that is about believing in yourself, and it's Henry Ford, the Ford company, but he said something to the tune of, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
Yeah,
and so if you believe you can, you will. If you don't believe you can, like I hear all the time when I'm painting in public, people are like, I could never do that. And I'm like, well, that's why you don't.
Yeah, because you just don't believe in yourself. So you just have to kind of put it in your head. And
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, perfect. And so if someone would want to do what you do now, what would you advise them to start with, or kind of like put them on the right path?
Right. Well, keeping in mind that, I've done animation, video games, fine art, and some other random stuff. I mean, non-artistic things. Obviously have patience. I keep coming back to that because some people want to go, 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 go. And my experience is it leads to bad decisions. But overall, refine your craft, refine yourself into an artist, because it's not the job that defines you as an artist. It's what you create. So you don't necessarily even have to be in the art field to be an artist. You could work in, law enforcement, like I almost did, and afterwards go home and paint and do what you need to do. And I believe that if you push yourself and you refine your craft, that people will find you and doors will open. You can walk into a video game studio with no video game experience and get a job at the highest level because your skill set is in the right place. And they can teach you to push the buttons to translate that into a 3D, an interactive 3D environment versus a rendered environment. So that to me is something is invest in yourself, put the time in to build up your skill set.
Do you have
that would be.
Yeah, do you have like a favorite books or something you learned from or you can recommend?
Probably my favorite book that I usually have sitting next to my desk, and again, thanks to the hurricane, all my books are away. But the Illusion of Life is one of my favorites. The Ollie Johnson, Disney animators from way back. Excuse me, I can't remember the other. But basically, it teaches you everything about an animated film, a traditional animated film. But it still applies today. I mean, you take out cleanup artists, you put in render wrangler, or things of that nature. But really, it gives you a background about how things work, both visually and logistically. And to me, that was immensely helpful. And it's just beautiful artwork in there too. And that's the other things that I usually have are art of books, like the one I'm trying to make. Basically, you put everything you have into it. And so looking at other artists is so inspiring to see a body of work, a collection of work that has been made into something so beautiful that in and of itself is a work of art. So I love things like that. Oh,
perfect. And after Kickstarter, this book will be available on Amazon or on your website, or when?
Initially, the website. I don't know about Amazon, but we're getting an ISBN number, so we can really do whatever we want from there. So I would say maybe on Amazon, but if we need to. But yeah, definitely on Kickstarter right now, The Art of Rob Kaz, and then on my website after that, we will put it there if we have any left over.
Yeah, because your Kickstarter finishes at the end of September, if I'm correct.
It's about a week from now.
Yeah. So then the interview will not be out yet.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I'm like...
Sorry. The 26th, I think, or 25th.
Yeah.
It's at the end of September. Yeah.
So the best would be just to put a link under for your website, so
there you go.
Can get the book. Okay, really nice.
Thank you.
And so let's talk about the future. And how would you imagine yourself in like 5 to 10 years if you cannot fail and everything is how you want? What is your dream scenario?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I love where I'm at right now. I really do, because I get to paint basically or create art or all day, and now I'm creating products, and it's as if I was working at a studio, but it's all for whatever I want to do. So really, I'm at my happy place. Now, if I could do that in Hawaii, that might be pretty cool too. But in the end, I want to grow my brand. I want to grow my business to a point where maybe people come to me to license instead of me going to Star Wars or Disney. For me, that would be a good goal. And then eventually, like after I'm long gone, 100 years from now, I would love to do something, or I would love to have my name, be in a museum or things where they look at the work and they get from it the same thing that I wanted when I first created, the smile, a happy moment, or just a fond memory, or just get immersed in the painting and not just go, pretty painting, and then move on to the Mona Lisa.
Yeah. So, but already now everyone who looks at your paintings, they're like, So that's great. So that's really great. I'm really fan, as I said. And so how would you actually describe your brand, or what is the kind of the feeling or a vision you are communicate through it? It's the happy moment, as you said, or is there something else as well?
Like I said, my background is animation, so everything with me is story. And in this case, a painting is just a single frame of a much larger story. So telling that story is really where my brand falls. Something of lighting and making people think, and not necessarily has to be happy, but just a thoughtfulness that makes you think deeper, and hopefully you get something positive from it, like a smile. That's something I always love to see, standing behind my work kind of incognito and looking, having a great reaction is something that is really wonderful.
Oh, that's really
so
nice.
that's where the brand is. And more than that, it's friendship and inclusion and family, things that make the world a better place.
Really nice. And thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. And
my pleasure.
Before we say goodbye, maybe you can share the last piece of guidance or advice, key takeaway, and then we will finish.
Yeah, just do it because you love it, because you'll be challenged. And in the end, if you love it, you'll just keep going. You'll push through it.
Perfect. Love it. Great way to end this. And thanks again. And thanks everyone for joining. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and let me know in comments. Also, please subscribe to my channel for more videos, because I post new interview every single workday. You can also find the resources mentioned in this episode at artsideoflife.com. Just type a guest name in the search bar. There is also a little freebie waiting for you, so go check it out. If you want to listen to the interviews on the go, make sure to check out the podcast episodes at artsideoflife.com/podcast. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and don't forget to inspire each other. I will see you guys in the next episode.